Historical criticism. Historical literary criticism, a journey through time and text. Historical criticism. What is historical criticism? Historical literary criticism, also known as the historical critical method of higher criticism, is a fundamental approach to understanding literature by examining its historical context. Historical literary criticism is a method of analyzing a work in literature by examining the historical and cultural context in which it was written. Definition and characteristic of the historical approach. Historical literary criticism involves analyzing a literary work in relation to the historical period in which it was written. This includes the author's life, societal norms, political events, and cultural trends. Key points, characteristic. We have 4 characteristics. Number 1, focus on context. Number 2, author's intention. Number 3, audience reception. And number 4, cultural and social influence. Number 1, focus on context. Historical criticism prioritizes understanding the historical, social, and political and cultural environment surrounding the text creation. Focus on context. It's just like looking at a painting with magnifying glass, not just admiring its colors and brushstroke, but examining the time and place it was created. Number 2, author's intention. It seeks to understand the author's intentions and motivations considering their backgrounds, beliefs, and experiences. This describes authorial intent criticism, which focuses on understanding the author's goals and reasons for creating a work. It delves into the author's background, beliefs, and experiences to interpret their intentions. Number 3, audience reception. It looks at how people reacted to a work when it was first published. It analyzes how readers and critics initially respond to a piece of writing. Number 4, cultural and social influence. It examines how cultural and social forces such as class, gender, and race affected the story, just like the story of Nole Me Tangere. In politics, they always choose male over female because they thought that male can lead over female.
People and authors behind the historical approach. The historical approach has been employed by numerous scholars throughout history, with significant contributions from Friedrich Nietzsche, Michel Foucault, and Hayden White. Friedrich Nietzsche. His ideas about the influence of historical forces on individual consciousness and the role of power in shaping cultural narratives. So Friedrich Nietzsche contributed on the historical approach by introducing perspectivism, which argues that all historical accounts are subjective and influenced by the historian's perspective. Michel Foucault, his work on discourse analysis in the ways in which power operates through language and knowledge. Michel Foucault contributed on the historical approach by introducing the concept of archaeology, which analyzes how power relations and discourse shape our understanding of historical events and knowledge. Lastly, Hayden White. His exploration of the meta-history of historical narratives and the ways in which historians construct meaning. So Hayden White contributed on the historical approach by arguing that all historical accounts are inherently narrative and subjective, and that historians use literary tropes and historical structure to shape their interpretation of the past.
Advantages of the historical approach. The historical approach offers several advantages of the understanding and analyzing complex topics. This includes help understand the story background, cultural and social awareness, authorial insight. Help understand the story background. It explains the time periods, traditional and way of life, making the story easier to understand. So by understanding historical, gain a deeper understanding for us. This knowledge is crucial for a comprehensive understanding. Cultural and social awareness. It raises awareness of cultural and social issues that shape the text and its reception. Encourage to our people to the past eras. Critical thinking. We are not going back to the past cultural, author's motivation and intentions. authorial insights. It provides clues about the writer's thoughts, beliefs, and goals. Refer to understand, gain about an author's intentions perspective, developing into the author's influence on their work.
Number 4. Disadvantages of the historical approach. Despite its advantages, the historical approach also presents several challenges. Number 1. Too much focus on history. It can sometimes overlook the literal quality of a text. This approach can sometimes emphasize historical context too much, that is overlook the artistic and literary quality of a text. Number 2. Limited scope. It may not be suitable for all types of literature and not tied to a specific historical period. Not all literature ways are tied to a specific historical period, making this approach unsuitable for analyzing some texts. Subjectivity. Interpretation can be subjective as different scholars may have different perspectives on the historical context. Different scholars may interpret historical context in various ways.
Here are the guide questions for using the historical approach. How did the text's original audience interpret the work? The original audience interpret a work based on their understanding of the context, cultural norms, and language used at the time it was created. The original audience interpret a work based on their understanding of the context, cultural norms, and language used at the time it was created. What were the major historical events and social trends occurring during the time the text was written? The answer is, this could include political upheavals, economic shifts, technological advancement, cultural movements, and societal changes happening during the era. What were the author's personal experience and belief? To understand an author's personal experience and belief, you need to analyze their background, including their upbringing, cultural context, significant life event, and the value of they hold.
Examples of historical approach. The historical approach is widely used in various fields, including history. Historians use the historical approach to study past events, societies, and individuals, reconstructing the past and interpreting its significance. The focus of the history is the documentary written works by the author's story. Sociologists use the historical approach to understand the evolution of the social structures, institutions, and movements, revealing patterns of social change. The focus of sociology is the different religious culture of people. Anthropology uses the historical approach to study the development of culture, societies, and human behavior, exploring the origins and transformations of cultural practices. The focus of the anthropology is they study about the human past and present. Literature. Literary critics use the historical approach to analyze literary works in their historical context, examining influence of social, political, and cultural factors on the author's works. The focus of the literature is to analyze the author's text.
Other information on the historical approach. Historiography, the study of how the methods and approaches used by historians in their research and writing is known as historiography. Means historiography is how the historian researcher write about history. Second, historical consciousness. The awareness of how the past and its influence on the present is referred as historical consciousness, which means historical consciousness is the awareness of how the past shapes the present. Lastly, new historicism, a modern version of historical criticism that sees literature and history as deeply connected. Or in other words, new historicism links literature to its historical background, and it sees literature and history as deeply connected, or in other words, interwoven, which means deeply connected or blended together.